Top of the afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's 4:20 p.m., March 17th, 2023. Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you could be here. It's St. Paddy's Day today. I got my lovely day for a Guinness shirt on. It's just a lovely day, period. It's Friday. Got a Guinness on the go. And I think the last video I did, I don't like talking about the price of Bitcoin, but it's worth noting that the last video I did, I think the price of Bitcoin was about 17,000 US dollars. And today it's 27,000 US dollars. And that's kind of whatever. There's been lots happening. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to a bunch of other stuff as well. But the one thing that I do want to point out is the fact that there's somebody out there. In fact, there's a lot of people out there who would rather have one Bitcoin than 27,000 US dollars. And people are still kind of on the fence if they want to get into Bitcoin or not. Crazy. Crazy. There has been a lot happen in the last week, for sure. And I was going to talk about the banks a little bit here, but I honestly think that it's counterproductive to be doing it at this point. But I do want to say one thing, and I think that it's very unfair to the banks that they're taking the majority of the flack for what's happening right now. When the Federal Reserve, the central bank in the US, the Federal Reserve, a couple years ago came out and said, we're not going to raise rates until 2024. And so there was a ton of different people, companies, everybody who took that as gospel. And I mean, Jerome Powell, I'm going to have to bite my tongue here a little bit, but they trusted this guy. And then in the last 6 months, we've seen interest rates basically go from 0 to 5%. And they're surprised that this has happened. But the good news is that we have Bitcoin. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about 8 different things here, 8 actionable items that we need to focus on going into the future here. And kind of the main theme around this is a circular economy. And you'll kind of see as I go down the list here of kind of what I mean by that. But think of the circular economy as we used to have with cash. You know, you had a guy for everything and you just gave him cash and it was completely around the system. The problem now is that they want to get rid of cash. And they've been over time gradually getting rid of cash. And we're kind of at the end of that line now. And it sucks. It does. I mean, if it were up to me, I would have cash. I would have physical dollars and coins, maybe just coins even, but something that's pegged to something solid, either gold, Bitcoin, something with a fixed supply, somewhat fixed supply. But I'm not in control of Canada. And if you think about how far we've come in a digital sense, do you really think that the kids nowadays are going to be using cash? I don't know. The way I see it is we have 2 options, and it's becoming more and more clear as the days go along here. There's going to be the central bank digital currencies, and there's going to be Bitcoin and cash and services, trading of goods and services within each other. And that's where the circular economy comes into. But the Federal Reserve announced on Wednesday, perfect timing, that they're going to be issuing a FedNow coin in the States in July 2023. So we already have China using CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. We have India using the central bank digital currencies. And the States has announced that in July, they're going to be issuing central bank digital currencies. So it's no longer a conspiracy. And anybody who's been paying attention to this for the last couple of years, this has been their end goal. This is part of the entire plan, is to move everything into a digital, controllable money. And we're there. It's not a coincidence that all this is happening right now. Okay. Okay, need to reset here. All right, reset button has been hit. I knew this was going to happen with the Guinness. Okay, where was I? So we're heading down this road, and we have a choice between the central bank digital currencies and Bitcoin. And I think that there's going to be a split happen, and we're kind of in the process of it right now, but I think that there's going to be a split happen, and a part of the world is going to go to the CBDCs, the centralized entities running every aspect of your life, because they're going to get free handouts. And there's going to be the other part of the population that doesn't want that. They want to work for what they have. They don't want the government being able to shut them off at any moment. That's the scary thing about these central bank digital currencies, because these people have had control over the monetary system for 100 years. And it's been shitty for sure. But imagine that times 100 or more, because at least with the old system, we had cash. So if you really wanted to go around the old system, you could, in a way. It was difficult, but it was doable. Without cash, though, that's completely gone. They're going to have access to every transaction that you make, and they're going to be able to shut you off at any second. If you make a Twitter post that they don't like, boom, your central bank digital currencies are zero. You want to go buy a steak at Tender Cuts? Sorry, you've hit your steak quota for the month. It's it's kind of scary and funny to think about, but like, this is not my opinion on things here, right? We know that this isn't my opinion. There's people who are in charge of that system that's the world that they want. And you don't spend the $100 we gave you last week, down to $90. They don't want anybody owning anything. They don't want anybody saving any money. And this is their way to do it. And before I get into any more trouble here, we're gonna stick to the list here. We're gonna stick to the items. So the first one here, by the way, these 8 things I'm going to talk about are ideas, thoughts, and actionable things that we can start doing today to ensure that we win this. So the first thing is that we need to keep the momentum going. Last weekend, after Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank were having issues on Friday, last weekend there was 1 million new Bitcoin wallets opened. So people are starting to see Bitcoin a little bit differently than they did before. They're starting to see the need for it. And that's exciting. Honestly, it's very exciting. And the price is going up, which is good. Not it's actually bad for people who are trying to get more Bitcoin, but it's good in the sense that it's bringing new people into it, and they're seeing it as an alternative to the old legacy system. So with all these new people coming into Bitcoin, the people who do have Bitcoin right now, they're going to be coming to us. And so what we need to be doing is we need to learn as much as we can, as quick as we can. So when they come to us, we're going to have the answers for them. And if we don't have the answers, we at least need to point them in the right direction. And for those people who are kind of going out of their way to tell people about Bitcoin, the one thing to keep in mind is that you need to focus on people who are willing to listen. Because the people who aren't, it's a complete waste of time and energy. And so don't even bother with it. Find the people who want to listen, who want to learn, and start interacting with them. Share what you know, learn what you can. And in the same time, if you've been watching videos on YouTube, if you have a favorite guy that you watch every couple days, or somebody that you've been learning a lot from in a podcast, the least you can be doing right now is sharing their stuff or subscribing to their channel, following them on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. Because the more eyes that we can get in front of these, the better. As I talked about, that split, it's going to go on for a while, and the best system is going to win. the one that people see the most value in. And so one at a time, people are going to start jumping. And like I said, it's already kind of happening. But the more we can build our own side of that, the better off we're going to be in the long term and the short term. And even to learn, I mean, there's so many great resources on YouTube and podcasts. And if you wanted to pay a little bit, you could. There's paid memberships out there. That's kind of how I started, is I wanted to make sure that I was doing it right. So I paid somebody $500 to have access to all their courses and stuff. And it was one of the best choices I made. But we're kind of at the stage now where there's that kind of information pretty much for free. And so we have to keep pushing forward with that. And the second one here is that we need to analyze our current setup of Bitcoin security. I posted a video last week talking about the different layers of Bitcoin security, starting with the exchanges and then onto a hot wallet and then some cold storage devices and all the way up to the COLDCARD. And for the last couple of months here, I've been going around physically and helping people get set up with the COLDCARD. And the COLDCARD is the highest level of security that I've found. The beauty of it is that you don't actually ever have to connect it to the internet. And so these COLDCARDs, they're actually very reasonably priced. They're just over $300 for the device, for the accessories. And that's a pretty small investment when you're talking about your life savings here. It drives me nuts that people are putting their entire fucking life savings on a USB and plugging it into their laptop that they've been visiting Amazon on, Gmail on, Pornhub on. Like, these websites track you and they track your keystrokes. And there's not a high probability that you're going to connect it to your laptop and somebody's going to find a way to steal your Bitcoin, but there is a chance, right? And that's what we need to consider here. We need to make sure we're in a place where whatever can happen, we're going to avoid that. And so a COLDCARD is a great option. If you're interested in that, just reach out to me. We have the COLDCARD combo, which gives you the device and all the accessories, plus 1 or 2 hours with me to help you set it up, give you the proper process to do it all, and really just help you sleep better at night. That's the main thing, because I've had basically every wallet, every device, and the COLDCARD is the top. So if you're serious about this, and it really doesn't matter how many dollars worth of Bitcoin you have, focus on the fact that you do have Bitcoin. And once it starts running up, there's going to be millions of people trying to jam through the same door as you to get your hands on one of these devices. And realistically, like, these companies aren't going to be able to meet that demand if that happens. At a bare minimum, just take a look at your security, take a look at your process, ask yourself these different scenarios of, what if this happened? Am I ready for that? Not that hard, is it? I don't think so. Next one here. Set yourself up on a few different exchanges. One thing that we've learned here is that banks go down, exchanges go down. Shit happens. And as we continue forward here down this road, I think there's going to be a lot more of this carnage. And so the best thing that you can be doing right now is set yourself up on Shakepay. If you're in Canada, Shakepay, Coinberry, Newton, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, Caleb and Brown. Please get a Caleb and Brown account. Even if you don't plan on buying any Bitcoin from Caleb and Brown, just sign up for a free account. Because if something happens to these exchanges, you're going to have somebody that you can call, a real human being. You're going to be able to either purchase Bitcoin or sell your Bitcoin. And it's the same thing. You just have to imagine that scenario where if something does happen and there's a bunch of new people trying to get into Bitcoin at the exact same time to fit through that same door, you want to be already in that room. And so you need to think about ways that you can be setting yourself up for that if it happens. And so by setting yourself up on these different exchanges, it means that, if you wanted to buy Bitcoin or sell a part of your Bitcoin and you logged into your normal exchange, and either you were locked out for doing something wrong or they shut down. It could be a variety of reasons, but you don't want to be trapped in that single point of failure. So your Shakepay's down, then you go to Newton. Your Newton's down, then you go to Caleb and Brown, or you go to Bisq. Bisq is a decentralized exchange. The Wi-Fi just went out, which is pretty standard. It usually happens at least once an episode. So I think that I finished that. I don't know if I cut out the last part here and I'm starting, whatever. You get the idea. The next one here is earn free Bitcoin wherever possible. And so I want you to put a focus on this and try to accumulate as much free Bitcoin as you can at this stage, because it's not going to be around forever. As more and more people start coming into Bitcoin and these companies don't need to incentivize anymore, that's when things will dry up and the incentives will end. And it'll probably happen fast. We're already kind of seeing it. Like Shakepay, you used to get $30 for every person you brought on. Then it went down to $10, and then it went to $5. And even their Bitcoin rewards too have gradually gone down. So take advantage of these companies and these websites and platforms that are offering these incentives for free Bitcoin as much as you can right now. I'm going to name a few here. And the first one, which I've talked about 1,000 times on here, is Shakepay. If you don't have Shakepay and you're in Canada, I want you to make that your priority today. And I have some videos on the channel. You can go find them. Maybe I'll put them in the description below, but it's very easy to do. If you've ever sent an e-transfer before, then you can figure out how to use Shakepay. And they offer like 3 or 4 different ways to earn Bitcoin. So the first one is by opening up the app every day, shaking your phone. I'm up to 252 days streak. And this morning I got 875 Satoshis just for shaking my phone. So that's one aspect of it. There's also the Shakepay Visa where you can earn 2% back on every purchase from your prepaid Visa within your wallet, and 2% back in Bitcoin. And they have the Shake Squad too, which means that every time you use your Shakepay Visa for a purchase, everybody in your squad earns some Bitcoin. So Shakepay would be my number one suggestion. But beyond that, there's an application called the Fountain app, which I've been really excited about lately. And it's exactly like I just said. Even in the last month, the rewards from Fountain have shrunk significantly. So when I first downloaded the app, there were times during the day when you could listen to a podcast and earn like 50 sats per minute just for listening. And now it's basically down to 1 sat per minute, and it doesn't change. But that's what happens as more and more people start using these apps and the price keeps going up. Obviously, they need to tighten things up. But the Fountain app is still awesome. You can go on there. You can listen to your favorite podcasts for up to 60 minutes per day. I think it is. You can earn 1 sat per minute just for listening to a podcast. And while you're there, look for the Kingdom podcast. Our golf podcast is now on there. And so you can listen to us bullshit about golf and other things for an hour and earn some Bitcoin. The third one here is the Brave browser. And I'm not going to go too far into what the Brave browser is, but you can Google it. It's basically like your Google or your Chrome or Safari, like a browser. And so you get this browser and they actually pay you for using it in their token, which is called the BAT token, which stands for Basic Attention Token. So they block ads, they don't track you, and they pay you in their token. And if you compare that to Google Chrome, they track everything that you do. They show you ads, and they do not pay you anything for it. So think about the Brave browser there. It's not much. I earn like 5 or 6 BAT tokens per month. But over a couple of years, I mean, that starts to add up. And as these prices start going up again, And the last one here is a website called RewardedTV. So it's kind of like Netflix, except instead of you paying Netflix, they pay you to watch for free. So the selection obviously isn't as great, but there's actually some good stuff on there. So that's rewarded.tv for every minute you watch, similar to the podcast, similar to the browser. These are just incentives for getting people to start using their services. And these incentives will end for sure. But they pay you in their replay token. No brainer. I mean, you could even just open up a new tab, put on a video, earn these tokens, and not even watch the show. But that's the beauty of kind of being at this stage, is that you have the ability to do stuff like this. And the basic attention token, I think that they've been in talks with Netflix about starting to use that there. But the replay token, like I don't know if this is going to be around in 5 years. I have no idea. But it doesn't cost you anything. That's the thing. And that's the next part of this. What I want to talk about is all those other coins, the BAT, the replay, your Ethereum, your Cardano. Over the last week or two, that the price of Bitcoin's been shooting up. Sorry, there we go. The price of Bitcoin's been shooting up, and usually the altcoins kind of lag behind it a little bit, but it seems like it's going at a different pace than these altcoins now. And I think that the reason for that is because of Gary Gensler, the SEC, the chairman. I think he's a chairman. But he's been coming out for like the last couple months screaming the fact that the majority of these cryptocurrencies are going to be considered securities. Bitcoin is going to be considered a commodity. So even though they're all being lumped together as cryptocurrencies, they're totally different assets. And this is going to have a lot of implications into the future, because Bitcoin is already legal tender in countries like El Salvador. And if it's considered a commodity and it eventually becomes legal tender, that means that you won't have to pay any capital gains tax on your gains. And if you compare that to Ethereum, if it's going to be considered a security, and you have some Ethereum now, and it increases over time, over the next 10 years, from $1,000 to, say, I don't know, it'll probably be at zero, but say it goes from 1,000 to 5,000, and Ethereum is a bad example, but let's say Cardano goes from 27. Can I continue here? That's the question. So you're going to be paying tax on, now the internet. All right, I think we're back. You're going to be paying the tax on you're going to be paying the difference between what you bought it for and what you sold it for. So you're going to pay half of that. That's going to be taxable. And then whatever your tax rate is at the time, assuming there's still income taxes into the future. So that's a big deal, especially for people who are putting a lot of money into this in terms of planning for the future. If you have the option between paying tax and something that's not going to be taxable. So take a good look at the altcoins that you do own, if you still believe in them or not, if they're showing any sort of promise into the future. And if they're not, if you're just kind of hoping that you got into them and they're going to shoot up and you cash out and that's it, then I would strongly consider trading them for Bitcoin while you can. It's a really easy way to get some more Bitcoin, and you can use any sort of exchange for this. Exodus is really good. You can do it right on your phone. All right, we're back. We're back. Moral of the story here is trade any cryptocurrencies you have swap them for Bitcoin. This is not financial advice. Do not sue me if something happens, if Ethereum ends up taking over the world. But at this point, it's clear to me, logically, common sense says that Bitcoin is going to be the one, and there's going to be a lot of them that kind of fall off the cliff. And people have been saying that for years, but I didn't really know how it was going to go down. But it's pretty clear at this point that there's going to be the SEC going after a lot of these coins. They're going to be securities. People are going to realize the implications of that, and they're going to want to trade all of their market cap. Like, there's a lot of dollars in these other coins. So once that starts coming into Bitcoin as well, along with everything else from the legacy system, it's a perfect storm. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now, I think, in a way, because we've already seen Bitcoin start to decouple from Ethereum. Usually they kind of run together, but we're seeing Bitcoin go up and Ethereum not as much. So swap everything for Bitcoin. And the last three things here all kind of tie together. So I'm going to lump them in, and they all kind of go back to the circular economy. And I think that I talked about the split earlier, and there's going to be people on the Bitcoin side. And I think that those people are going to start forming their own little networks, and they'll start exchanging goods and services for Bitcoin or cash or service for service, that kind of stuff. Their own circular economy, though, and finding ways to go around the old system. And I said that I wasn't going to get political on this channel at all, but thanks to the beer over here, I'm feeling a little bit courageous. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm going to move on fast, but it's clear that our government is laughable. There's no legitimacy there. There's no accountability. It's a joke. And so what do you do when that happens? You just start ignoring it. I'm not going to go to Ottawa and start causing a ruckus on the front steps of Parliament. I'm just going to ignore them peacefully. And that's what Bitcoin does. It's a weapon, it's a tool. It allows us to continue on without that system. And so number 6 here is sell some of your stuff for Bitcoin. That could be things in your garage, that could be things in your basement, that could be your business's products or services. But start selling it for Bitcoin. Wouldn't be a video if we didn't have some shit happen. We're back. Where was I? You have your haircut. You have your meat guy. You have your snow removal guy. Start looking around to see and asking around if they would accept Bitcoin, or your local pub. You don't know until you ask. A lot of these guys might be Bitcoiners. I know there's some people within one of the cities here, the larger cities in this area, and there's some higher up established people in the community. They've been mining Bitcoin. They've been buying Bitcoin. They're not telling anybody about it. Just like the Charlie Mungers and the other old fucker, what's his name? Warren Buffett. They act like they call Bitcoin rat poison. And then they're one of the main investors in like a blockchain city in Nevada. They've made their living off of deceiving the public. They don't want you to know about Bitcoin because they're buying it right now. But the point here is that just ask. And same thing for like your server at the restaurant. You get your bill, you offer to tip her or him in Bitcoin. Obviously, you're going to pay the bill as normal, like cash, and then 15, 20% tip, but offer to pay a Bitcoin tip as well. And just have a real quick exchange with them. Tell them to download the Muun wallet, send them like 5,000 sats, which is like 20 cents. And it might push them into the Bitcoin side. They might go home after work and look at their $5,000 sat balance and start watching some videos on Bitcoin. So it costs you 20 cents. You're paying your bill anyway, so you're not going to be a dickhead about it. Just give them some Bitcoin too. And the last one here, number 8, is find yourself a community. That could be locally, that could be online, but immerse yourself in a community that interests you. That's important. You should be, every single day, you should be doing something that you love to do. And I'm taking this one step further, because find some community of Bitcoiners, because that's going to help you with number 6. It's going to help you with number 7. And we kind of have that started with our 88 Sats project, which I've talked about before on here. So I'm not going to talk about it again. But it's a network of people who all love golf. 95% of them did not own Bitcoin before joining this group. Now they all own Bitcoin and they're invested in Bitcoin. Everybody's learning, everybody's rooting for it. And the key point here is that this didn't exist before. And so if there's nothing like this in your community or in the circles that you hang out in, start your own. In your local community, find a community online. And if nothing's there, then start your own. That's exactly what we did. And we're now at over 50 members who are part of this fund, who are within this business network, supporting each other, learning from each other, and really just growing together. And it all ties into the circular economy, because there's going to be people within that group who build a website, and I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, I need a website built. Would you take Bitcoin for it? And now you don't have to go through the process of explaining what Bitcoin is, setting them up with a wallet. They already know that because they're part of a Bitcoin community already. And so it just removes all that friction in terms of the ability to accept Bitcoin, pay Bitcoin, and create that circular economy where you're finding ways to go around the old system. And when I say exchanging Bitcoin for products and services, we're still kind of at the stage now where people would rather have cash because it's still widely accepted. But I think that Bitcoin is becoming the new cash, because if done properly, it serves the exact same purpose as cash does. But you can also send it to anybody else on Earth with an internet connection. So if I wanted a website built, I don't know why I'm obsessed with websites today. Somebody in the group was asking if we had a website guy. But if you needed a website built and nobody in your local area did it, you could now reach out to somebody in India, Thailand, Russia to build you a website. And you wouldn't need to send them cash. You could just transfer them Bitcoin in 30 seconds without anybody's permission. And there's no exchange there. It's just sats. There's no Canadian to Russian dollars. It's just sats. That's kind of all I had to talk about today. I do want to mention one more thing though. And if you're still around at this part of the video, I have a lot of respect for you, because that means that you give a shit. And that's what we need right now, is people who actually care. It's pretty easy just to float by and just accept everything as it comes, because there's not a whole lot that we can do. But there is, and it takes one person at a time. It's one day at a time. And I think the thing to keep in mind here is that humans always go to the most efficient way of doing things. And as I was just talking about there, sending money to Russia or to India without anybody that can stop it, just by setting up a wallet on your phone, and you can transfer them value. That's pretty efficient. And once people start learning and realizing that that's a possibility, like it's cool. And I think that that's a really underappreciated aspect of Bitcoin, is that not only is it a lot more efficient, but it's just cool and it's fun. And there's so many things being built on Bitcoin, including like Noster, where if you have stuff to sell, you have a whole community of people who know how to use Bitcoin there. And so that reduces all the friction involved with it. So if you have a business, you should be on Nostr right now. Even if nothing comes of it for 6 months, you need to be positioning yourself. Same with these free sats, wherever you can get it. We're still in a really good spot here. We're so early, and we need to be taking advantage of this. Happy St. Patrick's Day. The thing about all this, the crazy thing, is that most people think that Bitcoiners are really doom and gloom. And to be completely honest with you, I would be. I was really doom and gloom before I found Bitcoin and discovered what Bitcoin can do. And so it's given me so much hope in the world. Instead of having to go down the path that I thought we were being forced to go down, we now have an option. We have a way to opt out. And I think that if we do this properly, if we keep the momentum going, if we keep building these small, local, and online networks, I think we're going to win. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very excited. And it's nice to see that the price is going up. So there's a lot more eyes on it right now. As much as I would love Bitcoin to stay low forever and I can get as many sats as possible, the price is bringing new people in, and it needs to be fair. It needs to be fairly valued, because we still haven't priced in the fact that there's banks collapsing. We haven't priced in the fact that there's a halvening coming up in 2024 where the new supply of Bitcoin gets chopped in half. That's not worked into the price yet. There's going to come a day when Bitcoin goes up so fast that heads are going to explode. I believe that. That's just my opinion based on everything that I've seen and heard and learned. It's not a matter of if, but when. Have yourself a great weekend. I'm going to Dauphin here. I got to play some rec hockey. Pray for me. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Drink yourself blind tonight. And that is not financial advice or life advice. Have some fun, drink a few beers, and we'll catch you hopefully next week on this channel. We're going to keep talking about how we're going to change the world, one day at a time, one person at a time. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.